What's going on, guys? Rickson here today, and today is another episode of the Grid Watchers podcast. Now, it maybe sounds strange that I am doing the intros on the podcast for this week. Unfortunately, something has happened to Ali, and unfortunately, he can't join us today. So it's only the three of us. It is myself, Alex, and Ken, and the race has just finished, the Bahrain Grand Prix. It's pretty lengthy race given what happened, but just straight from the top, lads, how did you think that race went today? Or tonight, should I say now?
It felt weird. It had a weird vibe for me. Because after everything that happened in the opening lap, and then obviously the pause in between while they fixed the barrier, just for me, I was just happy that it was finished, without any further incidents. I don't know. It had a weird vibe. I don't know how to put it.
No, you're right. Yeah, I think starting a race in such a scary and horrible manner kind of sets the tone for the rest of the race. And actually, there wasn't much that happened during the race that kind of made it worth watching, I suppose. People may think differently to that.
That brought the mood up.
Yeah, exactly.
Quite a lot from where it was.
There was nothing in there. There was nothing in there that I was like, this is a really good race. It was just a couple of overtakes, and you just can't. You can't. Every time you think it could get better, you just think back to how it started and how close Grosjean was to having a horrible. I mean, it was a horrible crash. Yeah. But it could have been.
Well, every lap you could see every lap you could see every time they passed that area, you could see the black stripes on the asphalt and be like, oh yeah. And then when the race was finished, you normally have the podium celebrations, and then they cut away to a shot of Grosjean's car being brought in on the back of a truck, and you're like, oh yeah, because
so that happened.
Yeah, well, it's not like it's easy to forget, but it's just we were constantly reminded of how dangerous this sport is actually.
Yeah, it did feel like throughout the race they tried to remind us what happened at the beginning, and you were kind of like, while I was watching it, I was like, okay, for people that obviously hadn't tuned in, this is why we're still racing 2.5 hours later, and we've only done about 20 laps. But you kind of wanted to just do the race and just try and almost forget that it happened for an hour and a half, because it's weird, because it was effectively a fresh restart, wasn't it? But it was a fresh restart after everything happened. So it was actually the whole race. So then that whole race was just under this kind of big shadow. And then by the time it got to the end, that shadow just there was nothing to lift it. So when they did all the, podium stuff, and so obviously Alex got his podium, and they just went, oh, good for the podium. Yeah, it was unlucky with Perez and all that, which we'll talk about later. But then they got to Verstappen, who you expected to finish second. What did you think of Grosjean? And then got to Hamilton, who you expected to finish first. What did you think of Grosjean? And then it just brought the whole mood of both of those interviews just down. Yes, you acknowledge it, but it just brought the whole mood down. It's just like, yeah, you won a race, but it didn't. Yeah, it could have. That race could easily have not continued if we were sort of 5 years ago without a halo.
Yeah, well, I think the halo. we don't want to talk on it too much because technically we don't actually know how it happened yet. There was some talk about a front wing potentially going into his right rear tyre that made him swerve. It could have been driver error. We don't exactly know. The replays aren't clear enough, and I personally don't want to see any video of that crash again, really. But yeah, I mean, it was horrible. The halo definitely saved his life. That's one of the best things they've added since the racing began, really. That is so saved his life. People were saying, it would be better if it was a closed, piece of glass or plastic over his head or something like that. But even then, he would have been stuck. And the fact that the car split in half, there was just so much about it that you're just questioning. But like I said, I don't want to talk on it too much and make this podcast of a rather somber mood. But I think a shout out's got to go to the medical staff and the marshals who were around the circuit. That even though Romain made it out, it could have been worse. Technically, could have saved his life today. So yeah, I guess a thank you and a shout out to those guys for You know,
Yeah,
honestly,
and also to the
potentially,
FIA
yeah, of
for
course,
improving safety so much over the years. It's insane.
yeah,
It was ridiculous, but
I remember Alex the first thing because I was a couple of seconds back because we all have a group chat, a few of us, where we talk about things during the race. And it's actually quite handy to go back on to get topics for the podcast, which is always handy. But yeah, you were going like, oh my god, that's crazy. And I was like 2 seconds behind. And I just thought, oh, there's probably like a 3-4 car pileup. And then next thing I see is it was obviously insane what happened. Big ball of flames goes up, car's split in half.
Yeah.
How we made it out of that again, look, unbelievable. But yeah,
it's oof. Well, I think I was standing up to go get a beer or something, and then that happened. And then, well, the missus doesn't always watch F1. She's usually just, watch with half an eye, if that's the right expression.
Yeah.
But she doesn't, she does know a lot more drivers and what team they drive for, etc., etc. And she was like, "Oof, that's a big crash." And I immediately turned to her and said, "This isn't good."
Yeah.
I honestly thought we had all just witnessed a drive-by.
Yeah.
I think everyone their initial thought was because you like in this era of F1 you don't see a car go up in flames. It was like a scene from 80s F1 that you look back in history and just go, yes, this is why they improved the safety.
Yeah, exactly.
But into flames, it looked like a scene like that, and you see this car smash into the wall in the background of the wide shot, and it's just bursts in flames, and you're like, well, this cannot be good in any way, shape, or form. And obviously, they didn't say too much. They just kind of went red flag and just didn't show anything anywhere near that scene.
No, apparently that's a thing where they only show replays or camera angles at that scene.
Yeah. For very obvious reasons.
They don't show anything as long as they don't know how the driver is.
Yeah,
and obviously, by the time everyone else had come around, he was already out. But you don't know how is he. I mean, yeah, he's
out the car, but he could be
exactly
very bad.
But when they finally cut to the shot of him sitting in the back of the medical car, I was so like, oof, like.
I think we all took he's out of the car, he's okay, helmet's off, everything seems to be. He was talking, he was very, it was very there, and nothing was.
Well, you could see he was all shook up, which is understandable.
You would be.
Well, I'm probably going to get corrected on this because we are recording immediately after the race. So probably
the race is genuinely finished about 25-30 minutes at this point.
Yeah. So obviously, more details about his condition are going to come out in the coming hours and days. But for the latest report that Dutch TV told me was that some minor burns on the wrists and ankles, because obviously that's where the fireproof suit ends and goes into the gloves.
Start.
Yeah. And 2 broken toes. And to be honest,
isn't there something about a rib as well?
I think a potentially broken rib, but
potentially,
But
considering the size of that crash, and he's only got those minor, in the grand scheme of things, minor issues. It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, once again, massive shout out to the medical staff and marshals.
Because did you see the?
Just for this Grand Prix, but every single Grand Prix, it could have happened at any track.
Exactly.
But like I said, lads, don't want to speak on it for too long. Don't want to ruin the summer mood, but everybody here, wishes Romain the best. Turn that you could have done, but would have proved. Well, it will prove quite bad for Racing Point in general, because now, obviously, moving forward a little bit, obviously Perez on the second to last lap or third to last lap, engine blew up. Racing Point have scored 0 points this weekend. And when you think about how close the battle is for that third place, that is the very last thing that you wanted to happen for them this week.
Especially when you consider how many points McLaren picked up out of that race. I think it's 22 points. I think they picked up out of that race.
And I'm not aware, but have they moved above Racing Point now? Haven't they?
They've either moved above or they're like pretty much level.
Yeah,
at this point, so it's made such a difference in
obviously
those places.
Because we're going to this shortened track next week. Nobody really knows what's what cars. Obviously, you're going to need the straight line speed. So Force India would potentially benefit more off that.
Racing Point.
You never know.
Racing Point.
Racing Point. No, I'm doing it again every single week.
Every episode.
It's so difficult to not call them Force India.
One day you will get it right.
It's because they've still got Perez. I think when Perez goes, I think I'll finally get it.
Well, there'll be Aston Martin then, so you'll have even more problem.
Oh, bloody hell. God. You're right. That is actually really bad. But yeah, what did you guys think about the Stroll crash? Are we saying it's a 50-50? It's a racing? Are we saying what? Kvyat's fault? Considering you caused the Grosjean crash? What's the feelings?
Well, Kvyat did get slapped with a 10-second penalty, and I thought, we can't really argue about the 10-second. I mean, yeah, Stroll kind of closed the door, but Kvyat had no business being there.
Just dawdling, really, isn't he? It's a half move. It's kind of like, I'll put myself there and see what happens, rather than I'm going to make a move or I'm going to back out.
Well, it's a typical Kvyat move, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to throw my front wing in there and see how it goes from there.
Yeah, that is very true.
It very much is. It is just, I'm going to throw it there and see what happens. Stroll's gone to the racing line to come back in for the corner as that sort of as that corner goes. Yeah. You're not expecting to just see a car dawdling on the right hand side of you, half-arse making a move.
I've got to say, the most chilled out radio message from Stroll afterwards as well. He's just hanging upside down in his car, and he's just completely chilled out. It's like,
well, if you
now that you mentioned that team,
like screaming on, hanging like a cow, like, oh my god, I can't believe it. And the Stroll's just like, yeah, I'm all right.
Yeah, well, the thing is, yeah, but Hulkenberg couldn't get out on his own, so that.
That's true.
Yeah, very true. Actually, yeah, no, very
true. There was a reason to slightly panic.
Stroll was on his side, wasn't he?
Yeah, but his team radio is so chill. But I can't be the only one who thinks his engineer is a bit of an
arsehole. Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Like every time he crashes, he's just like, "Is the car all right? How about your driver, mate? You wanna?"
Yeah, car all right? No, it's on its roof. Think about the car's not going anywhere.
But every time he's like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I managed to get out. I got turnover." Oh, okay. It's just his tone of voice, and I don't know the guy. He might be a very friendly guy, but chill out. I know Stroll hasn't done everything perfectly, but relax, man. Cut him some slack.
He's not used to talking to people that have personalities.
That's a solid point.
Yeah, it's just it's like he sort of came from a call center. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's got that voice of someone
trying to sell him something over the team radio.
Is the car right? No, the car. We can't sell the car. What are we doing? Forget about the driver. What about the car?
He's a bit like a robot, isn't it? Meet Mop. Yeah. Next question.
Yeah.
Is the car all right? Yeah. Well, no, the car's upside down, but I'm okay. Yeah, but that doesn't make us money, though, does it, Lance?
Ooh. Now that we're on about, sorry, Rickson, I know you're supposed to talk everything, but
Go for it.
I want to mention it before I forget it. Now that we're on the topic of team radios, Ricciardo dropping truth bombs on his team radio, like, guys, why am I racing my teammate?
Yeah,
that's a fair point, though, isn't it?
I think he had flashbacks to Baku 2018 or something.
Maybe.
He was so much quicker than I know exactly which one you're talking about. Where they're going down into that really dodgy left-hander that's down.
Yeah.
First corner after that horrendously long straight.
But yeah, Danny Rick's like, come on, guys, like move. But yeah, I think the back half of this season, Danny Rick's been a completely different class to Ocon. But I guess he's been driving for longer, I suppose. But
yeah.
He's definitely ready to move teams. I'll tell you that. If you look at where the McLaren is compared to the Renault, even though they're relatively close on track, I think that Renault in a couple of years is going to be quite far away from where McLaren are going to be potentially. That's just my.
If you look at McLaren next season, they're going to have that Mercedes engine, and although it's only going to give a bit of an increase,
they're going to be Racing Point 2.0 with better drivers. Well, with a better all-rounded team. Wouldn't say better drivers, but
Norris with an extra year's experience and then that Merc engine in a couple of years, that's going to pay dividends when you've been able to fit the best engine on the field properly into your car with the new regs and stuff. it's going to push them back towards the front of the field with the. Well, I was going to say the top three, but Ferrari have very much moved out of that section. But
I also
out with the Red Bull and stuff, fighting for more podiums.
Yeah, thinking on that, it might have been Crafty on the commentary for Sky. Basically said that when Sainz overtook Charles, he was going, he's just overtaking the car he's going to be driving next year. And I was thinking, imagine how he's feeling. Like, thinking, it's basically, look, it isn't even a sideways move. It's a downgrade. Somehow going to Ferrari is a downgrade. In terms of like stature and supporting the team, no. But in terms of the actual car, Ferrari, knowing Ferrari, they'll turn it around for next season. But what? Like, that must have been so surreal for him. He's been like, that's going to be me next year, getting overtaken by Danny Rick. Like,
yeah.
Lando waving me goodbye. Like, no.
Exactly. Like, that's painful, if anything. But speaking of that, I know we only just mentioned it, but just want to skip to near the end of the race, talking about battling. Just quick, got to mention Perez. The guy, his car was on fire. The team scored, obviously Racing Point scored 0 points, which is horrendous for the championship. Puts McLaren potentially just below or just ahead of them going into the last 2 rounds. Still 2 rounds, still quite a lot to play for. But his car was on fire. It was sick. There was pink flames coming out the back of a pink car. The best thing I've ever seen.
Pink flames.
Wicked. Yeah, it was like on fire. The back end of his car was on fire, and it was like it looked pink on my screen. I was thinking that is wicked. But obviously he was so close to the end. His car was smoking, then on fire. His team obviously told him to see if he can keep on going because he was going down that middle straight in the second DRS zone. And he was flooring it, and his car was on fire. And Brundle and Crofty was like, he needs to pull over. And it was just revving because he just wanted to finish. He wanted the podium. Like, absolutely devastating for Sergio there. And the fact that he doesn't have a drive for next season is questionable. Questionable, to say the least.
No, because Hulkenberg's going to get out of the Red Bull seat, and we can all end up with beer, so it's great.
No, he's not. We're not having this conversation again.
Perez actually, both Perez and Stroll having DNFs really hurt Racing Point in the you mentioned it, Rickson. It really hurt them in the constructor standings because now McLaren is actually third with 171 points because they had a brilliant result, 5th and 6th.
Yeah.
Racing Point are 17 points behind, and then Renault are 10 points behind Racing Point. So it's close, spicy. It's spicy with only 2 races left.
So there's
going to be an interesting few races.
That's the one to watch for then, I suppose. The battle.
The rest of it's pretty much there, unless obviously, I mean, in fairness, Williams could overtake a few cars if they got a 1-2, but it seems unlikely. But that's the constructors' battle to look at for. I think definitely next week. I think next week's going to be a major decider with that brand new track and how the cars are going to deal with that with the engines that they've got. I think that's going to be a real decider in terms of constructors. But I think that Racing Point's going to come in on top of that with their engine.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, 0 points. Still a whole lot to play for the last 2 races. Luckily, they've got 2 races rather than 1. So there's a couple of things that could happen. Really, you're looking for Norris or Sainz to DNF ultimately because they're both going to score points or just be on the cusp of scoring points. So
we're there or thereabouts.
Yeah, I mean, as a somebody who is a Racing Point fan, I'd be quite nervous that you're going to be 4th rather than 3rd. But yeah, I mean, unfortunate Stroll, but in both of those problems that happened to them, really, with Stroll crashing out and obviously Perez blowing up, there's not a lot that they could have done there. I think that was just a case of very, very unlucky for both drivers. But another point that we've got to mention from Chief Ollie is I kind of shut off after halfway through, to be honest, because there wasn't a whole lot happening. But
you're leading a F1 podcast.
Bottas, yeah, right. So it's like I try so hard. Bottas very, very average yet again. Couldn't
Who's
even
Bottas?
overtake George Russell. Oh, sorry, Bottas, because he's a loser. I've got to give him an L, haven't we? Start his name off. He was stuck in like 14th, 13th for like 10 laps. He's in the fastest car. He can't overtake. People say that Merc isn't built for overtaking. It's powerful enough to overtake cars, so I don't understand that argument. That's not valid. That you can't build a car to not overtake. That's stupid. But yeah, again, very, very disappointing from him. You know, he had a bit of an unfortunate start with the puncture and the poor start from the original getaway on lap 1. But he's not proven his worth, is he, lads, really?
I mean, because obviously you can give him something for not winning the race because he had that puncture initially, so he was never going to be in contention to win. But you would expect him to be in contention for potentially a podium if he caught up Perez and Albon towards the end of that race, or be in contention for beating the McLarens and stuff. The Mercedes is definitely a lot quicker than the McLarens, like at least a pit stop ahead. Hamilton was easily a pit stop ahead of the McLarens when that safety car then came out. So you'd like to think that he should be there or thereabouts, but he just didn't seem to care. It was following Raikkonen that had half his front wing scraping along the floor, not even really attached. I just couldn't overtake it until it went into the pits.
That's always been a problem
with.
It's always been a problem with Bottas. Doesn't matter where he is on the grid, whether it's trying to overtake Hamilton for the lead or trying to overtake Raikkonen for P13 or whatever it was. He seems to be cutting that edge that a lot of the other drivers have, like Danny Rick, where when you need to do an overtake, you just get it done. You know, he was within the DRS for Raikkonen for all of those laps and just didn't have enough to get past him. You either ask for a bit more power to get past, and although he did make his way up to 8th, I think he finished. You know,
I think so, yeah.
He might be 7th actually with Perez blowing up. But you know, like he made the overtakes eventually. But if that was Hamilton or Max, they would have flown through the pack there. So it's one of those things where you're just thinking very, very poor performance. If he's not in second, he can't really do a whole lot, which obviously second isn't a bad place to be. But when you're a racing driver, you never want to come second. And you never want to come 7th if you're in the fastest car on the grid. So, yeah, just thought we'd briefly mention that. I don't know what you think, Ken, but another very, very average. I won't say poor because he finished the race, but another average race from Bottas.
Yeah, I don't know. He's really been. Well, he hasn't been top notch all season, but he's really gone downhill since Lewis was crowned champion.
So a race.
The last. Yeah. But no, but obviously, the race before he was
Yeah.
With all the spinning, and then this week it was like, seeing him getting over. I mean, he was getting schooled by Norris in the McLaren, and I was like, it's fair play to Norris. It was a really, really, really nice move. But still, I'm like, come on, Bottas, you're in the Merc. I don't want to call him a waste of a seat. Well, I am going to call him a waste of a seat.
That's exactly where this is going, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. I really like the guy because he's got a nice personality, and sometimes he does amazing things with that car. But it feels like he's lost his edge.
I was going to say, I feel like Mercedes should be really concerned about the last couple of races where his heart it just looks like his heart just isn't in it as much as it was at the beginning of the season. And I feel like that's quite concerning that you've got some good drivers that could replace him. So Ocon, Russell, for example.
Russell, I don't think you'd go Ocon.
Fair enough. At this point, you'd go Russell.
The only option you've got to get Russell out of that Williams. He's doing so well in it. He had another chance at points today. He was only a couple of places up, I think. So
he was pretty close. Yeah, he was there or thereabouts. He was fine.
I just don't understand. When your teammate is battering you every single week, I can get it. But when you're in the best car, qualify second, all goes downhill if you have a bad start. But if you're in a car like that, you can kind of make your way through it. But he just fell further and further back, and it was game over halfway through the race for him. Really, but typical Bottas. Problem there. I mean, obviously, with Bottas not being on the podium, a space opened up. Everybody was hoping and praying it would be Perez again to prove why he deserves a seat. But from out of nowhere, Mr. Alex Albon, can't even say his name, podium, literally the luckiest man on the planet. But Alex gets his first ever podium from complete
Second.
luck. Second ever. Thank you, Ken. Complete luck.
So where was his other podium then?
Don't ask me. I don't know. Thailand?
It was.
I don't know.
Welcome to the Grill Watchers podcast.
We race in Thailand.
Ollie's he's watching this back going. He doesn't even know where Alex.
I think it was. Podium. Hold on. It was Tuscany where he finished third.
Oh, that's okay. Where like four car finished. Was that Tuscany? Yeah, that was Tuscany.
Yeah, where they had that massive crash on one of the restarts because
they
decided not to go after it.
Yeah, that's right.
8 DNFs.
Jesus. But second ever podium for him, and it was a good race. Stayed fourth for the majority. You know, made a couple of good moves. Big question is though, does a win a race save his seat? My opinion, no. Even though in my head he's going to be in that car next season, that doesn't say he's still very, very poor this year. He's had one. This should have been a fourth place, but you know, lucky podium. But I think he's still got a whole bunch to prove before he can keep his seat. Really,
in Dutch we have a saying, and it goes, "One swallow doesn't make the summer." And a swallow, I'm talking about the type of bird.
Oh, okay.
You realise you're talking to Jack here, aren't you?
Yeah, I thought you were talking about top swallowing. I was like, bro.
No, that's why I felt I need to explain it. But, a swallow is the type of bird that usually comes out when the weather's nice or something. You know, it's the expression that's like, one podium, but you haven't saved your seat, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, apparently Verstappen, over the team radio when everyone's listening, he said, "Congrats to Alex on his podium in front of the cameras. Congrats to Alex for the podium." Now I'm reading an article where Dutch media, where he can obviously speak in his native language, asked him, how do you feel, about the podium for Albon? Obviously a lot of points for the team. It was like, yeah, well, he can fill it in himself, but I don't think it's really. It's good that he's got a podium, but it's not really good if you finish 30, 40 seconds behind your teammate. I think I can be honest about that.
Jesus.
Drop the mic and get out.
That's a fair point, isn't it? Because, they clearly have the second fastest car, and he should be in fourth place, kind of every race. Barring obviously Bottas not bottling it like a plank. So he should be there anyway. And he was 30, 40 seconds behind his teammate, obviously, when the safety car came out. So, yeah, I think Red Bull are going to keep him, despite the fact he hasn't really done anything to prove he deserves it. I think
one podium does not really...
Well, two podiums.
Well, no, but I'm talking about another, one podium today.
This podium.
It doesn't mean... it technically means nothing, man. He got very lucky. And when you think about how many podiums Max has had, he should at least have half of that number. Obviously he doesn't. And when you're even though Max is like future world champion, whatever, Albon is in a car where he can be a future world champion if he tries hard enough. Because that Red Bull will eventually in their careers will come good if they stay there at some point. Merc aren't going to be dominant forever and ever. As much as that'd be quite good. It's not going to happen. The regs are going to change in a couple of years, and there's going to be another team that are going to be amazing. But yeah, Max again put on a really good show. And I think the attitude of Max compared to Alex says it all. Max was like, I want to push. I want to try and catch him. There's not much point in us watching the tyres he's just going to get further and further away. And by he, I mean Hamilton, right? But Alex would be happy just to sit there, and maybe that's the duty of being a second driver. You don't say a lot. He hasn't done a lot of racing, but nor has Max. So I think there's some things mentally that Alex has got to change to become a better driver.
It's basically let's fully send it versus they race me so hard.
Yeah, that's the one. They raced me so hard. Talking about AlphaTauri, which yes, are a sister team, but they're another team on the racetrack that on that day were faster than you. Why are you complaining? Go and overtake them.
He also finished 30. Well, obviously we finished behind the safety car. But
27 seconds behind Max, wasn't it? That he finished
27 seconds with one pit stop less. One pit stop less. There we go.
Yeah,
because Max pitted for the mediums to go for the fastest lap, which he got in the end.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, so that's probably about 25 seconds without.
Yeah, you can add another 20 seconds to that. It's
I
don't know. I mean,
poor.
You know the bet we have going. I know I was a big advocate to get Hulkenberg in that seat, but I told the girlfriend as well. I wouldn't mind seeing Perez next to him because he's got balls, man. Perez is a ballsy.
So can we? If Perez gets the seat, does our bet still? I only said if Hulkenberg gets the seat. I just want to confirm that's what was said. I said if Hulkenberg.
I think you said if Hulkenberg gets the seat.
Good. That's fine.
Yeah. If it's Perez, then we're just gonna buy our own beers and get smashed.
I think the thing is, at that point, we didn't know that Perez was definitely not going to have a seat next season. Obviously,
I would love to see Perez in that Red Bull. Can you imagine how many more points they'd get?
Oh, epic!
Yeah, he'd be a baller.
He's so good. But yeah, Albon podium. You know, Lewis wins again. I'm not going to talk about Lewis for too long, but wins again. Would have won by a big margin. Would have won by an even bigger margin if there wasn't that safety car. But yeah, again, I think it was a race for the midfield teams. Yet again, I know we touched on it very briefly earlier. Danny, Rick, and Ocon battling away. I think next season it's going to be set up very nicely for a very good, another very good season for the cars in kind of third, fourth, and fifth in the standings. And I think again it's going to be another season of Merc dominance up until Red Bull get a better second driver or the regs change, which is.
I think the regulations are going to push Red Bull back into that front position again. I just feel like.
Hopefully, I mean, I just want to see Hamilton be tested. Like as a Hamilton fan, you want to see him battle somebody and then win because it's a better feeling than just staying ahead for half the race.
I see what you mean.
I just want to, we're trying to come to the end of the episode here. A slightly shorter one, given what happened during lap one. But I just wanted to rewind slightly back to Perez. I don't know if you guys saw, but I literally disappeared. I disappeared for about 20 seconds to grab a drink. Came back, and they were showing a replay of Norris going around that dodgy left-handed downhill, and just the marshal just ran across the track.
Yeah, with the fire.
The car was on fire and whatever, but if he was going any quicker, like that, he might not have been able to avoid him. That was just utterly, given what had happened in that whole race, I can imagine a lot of the marshals were stressed out or nervous about something else happening, but that was ridiculous.
It was absolutely stupid. Yes, it was Norris that was coming up, and he sort of obviously avoided him, and then got on the radio. It was just like, well, that was kind of
stupid.
Bravest marshal ever, and I think his technical guide just sort of went, brave or stupid, and it was stupid. It's like he'd seen the TV shot because the guy that extinguished Grosjean's car to allow the medical guy to clamber him out came from the other side of the track, a bit like this marshal did. There is a big difference between running from the other side of the track when all of the cars have gone past and a car is very much engulfed in flames and a bit of an engine fire with a very much live race going on. It was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I think it's just a moment of panic, isn't it? Cars on fire. It's where it is on the track. I guess it was relatively close to the actual racetrack. So, but yeah, and was that just as the safety. I don't know. It might have been just
the safety car had been called to come out, so it was all yellow flag, deltas, and all of that.
I guess it's kind of okay, but
obviously there was still cars nearby. It wasn't as if all the
they were still going like 130 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
still
they won't
speed.
do the 30.
Yeah, very true.
You know, it was still risque, I think is the best way to say that. It was madness.
I mean, lads, rounding it out, obviously Ollie's not here today. So I'm trying to... Is there anything that we've missed, boys, that is worth speaking on? I mean, in terms of Grand Prix, outside of Renault and the McLarens making their way through the pack and a couple of overtakes, just another one of those Grand Prix, really. Obviously,
Vettel was incredibly slow.
Oh God,
Vettel was last for half of that race.
Yeah, that was that. I know there was a team radio at one point where it was like, this car doesn't feel like it's felt the last couple of days. It's like a dog. How much worse can it be, really, for them? But it's one of those seasons where obviously they got pinned back with the engine regs, and now they're back. They're back at square one for this season. The suffering is nearly over for the prancing horse fans. You know, it's nearly done. And hopefully next year it's better for them. But yeah, it's
I don't know.
It's very sad
strange to see, isn't it? To see the type of driver that Vettel is as well. The fact that he's gone so far down all of a sudden. I mean, yes, it is the car, and he's not in the car next season, so he doesn't really care. And I guess the team don't really care about him that much secretly.
No, but Leclerc's not having so many issues.
Yeah, but he's there next season, so he's working on making the car better for next year. I think Vettel's given up because he knows he's not there.
Not his car anymore.
He's actually going for quite a good car. Well, hopefully quite a good car next season. If Racing Point is still going to be Racing Point.
Yeah, well, Aston Martin, yeah, but it's still going to be the same base car, isn't it? So in fairness, he's actually making an upgrade to a car that should be worse.
Oh, that's a good point. They should be worse if Ferrari are going to go back to what they were last season, for example. Yeah, it's a risk. I hope it pays off for him because I know he's not battling Lewis for championships.
You actually like him?
You quite like him.
Yeah. It's strange that.
Yeah, funny how that happens.
Yeah. But I suppose just to round it off for this week then, guys. I mean, it's one of those Grand Prix that would have been pretty good if we didn't have the massive crash on lap one. I think it's that's the biggest crash I've ever seen in, I would say.
I think in my lifetime, yeah. I think.
Yeah, I haven't watched F1 for as long as you guys. I know that. Like about 2010 is when I started taking it seriously. I've never seen anything like that. Nothing like that. It was unbelievable. And it kind of like you said, Ken, set a somber mood for the rest of the Grand Prix.
Yeah.
And I know we usually move on from the race to talk about some other segments, but I feel like we need to have a solo episode this week.
Well, Grosjean got driver of the day. I felt like that.
Yeah,
he did.
And one thing I have to add as well, it was nice not seeing Twitter or F1 Twitter in absolute shambles.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
Everyone was actually, concerned. There were no stupid best car, it was nice seeing
it was pretty toxic.
Yeah, it was nice seeing everyone come together. Driver of the day, let's give it to him. And also, everyone being concerned, not sharing inappropriate images or theories about, what could have happened or what could have been and stuff. It was nice seeing the community come together for once, and I hope next week it's not back to usual where it's just.
It definitely will be. But
yeah, definitely. I'm making illusions if I think it won't be, but
Yeah,
oh well.
Thank you guys for joining me for this week, and we hope whatever happened to Ollie, everything is okay. next Grand Prix is next week, right? Just wanted to
Yes.
It's the
so
Bahrain Oval.
It is.
It's
5
NASCAR next week. I'm pretty certain. The Bahrain Oval, as Alex just said. So brand new track. Anything could happen, and I'm hoping that you guys will join me. Well, technically join Ali next week as we cover the Bahrain Grand Prix Part 2. I suppose.
Just a quick reminder: quali is at 5, races at 5:10 UK time. That's 6:10 in Belgium, Netherlands, France, etc., etc. So it's going to be a late one to record.
Great. Well, that's what I love to hear on my Sunday evening.
Watching F1 with tea on your lap is just it has a certain thing.
It hits different.
It hits different. Exactly.
Anyway, round this off for this week, guys. Thank you both for joining